It's safe to say that Led Zeppelin dominated the rock scene in the 1970s. They were pretty much the biggest band, selling millions of records and selling out shows everywhere they went. But they had a secret weapon that most people don't know about. And I'm not talking about Robert Plant's voice, Jimmy Page's guitar, or even John. I'm talking about their manager, Peter Grant.
You're going to tell me that I bet it wouldn't happen in Europe.
I don't know how the guy got in the building. This isn't Europe or England.
No, I can see that because it's so inefficient. Your mate selling the T-shirts and made the fucking
He's the one who told Richard about it also.
Doesn't matter as long as there's an extra nickel to be drained. By exploiting Led Zeppelin, it's great.
Peter Grant stood 6 feet 5 inches tall and weighed 300 pounds, and he was a former wrestler. Today, we're exploring how the most feared man in the music business built Led Zeppelin into an empire, and how his tactics finally caught up to him one night in Oakland. Before Peter Grant, bands got screwed constantly. It was the late 1960s, and the music business was run by promoters and label executives who made fortunes while artists barely got paid. The Beatles famously lost control of their publishing when Northern Songs was sold to ATV without their knowledge, and the Rolling Stones were ripped off by manager Alan Klein for years. Peter Grant knew all about this. He'd been a roadie, a bouncer, and a co-manager for the Yardbirds alongside Mickey Most. He had seen exactly how the industry bled artists dry. When he became Led Zeppelin's manager in 1968, he made them a promise. Nobody touches your money. Nobody screws with you. He understood how power worked, and he was about to use it to change the industry forever. And the first thing Peter Grant did was rewrite the record contract. In 1968, he walked into Atlantic Records in New York, and the headline soon announced a staggering $200,000 advance. At the time, that was the biggest deal for a new band in history. The reality was slightly more nuanced. The contract was structured with an initial $143,000 payment, with further installments bringing the total over that $200,000 mark. But the real win was the royalty rate. Most bands were lucky to get 4 or maybe 5%, but Grant secured 7.33% for the US and UK markets, and 5.5% for the rest of the world. Atlantic Records executive Jerry Wexler was stunned. But Grant had leverage. He knew the band was going to be massive, and he was willing to walk away. Atlantic blinked. They signed the deal. He also demanded full creative control. No singles without approval. No label interference with artwork. By 1974, Grant helped them launch Swan Song Records, ensuring they owned their destiny. But Grant's biggest win was ticket sales. In the early 60s, most bands were getting about 50% of ticket sales, but by the early 70s, Grant had negotiated it to Led Zeppelin getting 90% of all of the receipts at the gate, leaving promoters with just about 10%. The promoters were not pleased. They called it highway robbery, but Grant said it was fair. There's one story in particular from a Midwest show where the promoter tried to undercut the payment to the band by saying that there weren't as many tickets sold as there were, but Grant showed up at the door at the guy's office and demanded the extra payment. Needless to say, when you've got someone of Grant's stature showing up at your door demanding money, you're not going to fool around. He paid the guy. And there's another example of a venue requesting 20% of merchandise sales. Grant said, no, 100% of the merchandise goes to the band. The venue protested a little bit, but Grant threatened to walk away. Once they did that, the venue backed down. Robert Plant said of Peter Grant that he protected us. He made it so that we could focus on the music. And Jimmy Page called him their protector, the one who made their empire possible. But in 1977, something tragic happened. It's at the Oakland Coliseum on July 23rd. Led Zeppelin is on their biggest tour yet, 2 nights at the Oakland Coliseum, promoted by the legendary Bill Graham. But Grant and Graham hated each other. Graham thought Grant was a thug, and Grant thought Graham was a control freak. That afternoon, Peter Grant's 11-year-old son Warren was backstage. He was trying to lift a wooden dressing room sign as a personal souvenir. A stagehand named Jim Matsarkas saw Warren and snatched the sign right away. Warren ran to his father crying. According to police files, the response was swift and brutal. John Bonham delivered the first blow, kicking Matsarkas in the ribs. Then, Grant's head of security John Binden and tour manager Richard Cole dragged Matsarkas into a trailer and they locked the door. They punched him repeatedly. Binden, a man with underworld ties, allegedly tried to gouge out Matsarkas' eyes. Grant, wearing heavy rings, punched him in the face. Matsarkas had a tooth knocked out and was kicked in the groin. He eventually stumbled out the trailer, bloodied and terrified, and he went straight to the police. The Oakland police arrived backstage mid-concert. They arrested Peter Grant, John Bindon, Richard Cole, and John Bonham. The band finished the show, but the image of the manager and their drummer in handcuffs made international headlines. In court, all four men eventually pleaded no contest to battery charges. They paid fines and received suspended sentences, but the damage was done. The reputation Grant had built, the tough but fair, was now something darker. And this signaled something even worse, that he was losing control of the band. The Oakland incident followed Peter Grant for the rest of his life. He later admitted he went too far, that his temper had gotten the better of him. And in 1980, when John Bonham died of alcohol poisoning at age 32, Led Zeppelin broke up immediately. Without the band to protect, Grant's life shifted. He struggled with his weight problems and drug addiction throughout the 1980s, becoming a recluse at his estate. However, in the early 90s, Grant found his way back. He conquered his addictions. He lost a significant amount of weight and began making public appearances again. He seemed to have finally found peace with his past. But on November 21st, 1995, Peter Grant died of a heart attack while driving with his son. He was 60 years old.
Tom Parker onward, the great managers enjoyed a fame that rivaled that of their acts. Some of them even attained mythical status. One of the greatest of them all was in the city this week. When Peter Grant managed Led Zeppelin in the 70s, he earned a certain reputation. When he crossed swords with Paul Morley, he reminded everyone why.
Anybody that is impeding the career of a band, or one of my bands, if they had to be trodden on, they were trodden on. Verbally or whatever you like to think.
Now, okay, let's split that into two.
Because I don't know how much time you spend in America, but you can hear a hell of a lot of bullshit there.
Verbally, what would be the worst thing you would do then? I mean, what kind of grief would you give them?
Whatever I had to do.
And physically, what would you do?
Whatever I had to do.
Is it true that you would hang certain people out of a hotel room 15 floors up from their heels?
No. But it could be a first today.
Peter Grant changed the music business forever. Before him, artists were completely controlled by the system. After him, they could finally demand their full worth. Many bands started keeping 90% of the ticket sales, and they started to own their masters and their publishing. Even Bill Graham called Grant a genius who understood power better than anyone else. He was violent, maybe he was a bully, but he was effective. Led Zeppelin arguably built the largest empire in rock history, and he was the guy that made it happen. So that's the story of Peter Grant, at least a small portion of it. I'm sure there's a lot more that could be said about him and Led Zeppelin. And if you like that kind of thing, make sure to subscribe for more classic rock videos like this. And hit the like button and share and all of that stuff. Let me know what you think about him in the comments. And until then, I'll see you next time.